Any quartz base. Yeah, those would be my recommendations, Julie, along with smoky quartz and rose quartz for you. Wonderful. But then I would go to my heart chakra, which is pink or green. So that is a really easy, quick guide in picking your crystals. Okay. So 1, your intuition. 2, go with the chakras and just go with colors. And then my third one is, especially if they're in front of you or if you're at a store, is to feel them and to sense them. So my mom and I were talking about this before this scope, and what she realized when she was first picking crystals and going into a store, that instead of enjoying the process, she would get overwhelmed. And what crystal do I need? Where do I go? And ask the store manager, whoever was working, for a recommendation, which instantly gives our power away and disconnects us from our intuition in picking our healing modality or the crystal that we're going to use. Because, one of my favorite quotes that I love to share with people that Buddha said, do not believe even myself. Do not believe anything you hear, including myself, because the answer is always going to be within. And so that's why as I teach my clients in my crystal course, I will always empower them and bring them back to them. As much as we can read the books and the meaning of the crystals, which is fun, and there is a place for that, I definitely think you need to go and tap in within for picking, which, and this is just a little side note, and then I'll show you how I pick the crystals by feeling, is on my website, I have a whole page, and I do have the crystal meanings listed. However, I only have the pictures so that people first will just look at the crystal and experience the crystal, and by eyesight and intuition, be drawn to what crystal they need the most. Then they can click on the picture and read about the crystals. But I first want to empower people when they're visiting my website to just experience the crystals. So if you want to check that out, you guys could screenshot that. But there at the top is my website, www.thewilltowow.com. Hey, Tigs Bay, thanks for joining. Hey, Deborah, thanks for joining. So just to recap for the benefit of those who just joined, my number one way for picking crystals, and I gave my top tip first, is to not look in the books, but to go with your intuition. Go with your intuition. And my second way was, does anybody remember what my second way was? Pick them by the chakras. You don't need to know the name. You can just pick the color, okay? And we gave a few examples for that. And then my third way is, if you have the crystals in front of you, I'm going to try to switch the camera down here so you guys can see some of mine. Okay. Can you guys see some of these crystals and bracelets? So that can be overwhelming, right? Like, look, let's say you're a crystal healer and a client comes over, how do you know which crystals to use? So what I always suggest people do, and what is fun to do before a client would have a crystal lay, my very first crystal, is that a question for me? My very first crystal was an amethyst and a clear quartz that you gave me when I moved from Muncie, Indiana to Colorado Springs, Colorado. And I believe I was 23 years old. So almost 20 years ago, that was my first 2 crystals. Ooh, Julie, smoky quartz. That's a good one. Good one. Do you still have it, Julie? Do you still have your first crystal? So, yes, of course I remember. Okay, so when picking your crystals, I like to use my left hand. That taps into our more intuitive side. Yay, she has hers still. Yeah, I still have mine too. When I use my left hand, sometimes I'll close my eyes, and I really like to have my clients close their eyes because I'm trying to stop the mind and the chatter in the mind and bring them into just spirit, right? So we might take a couple deep belly breaths and get centered and grounded. And then I'll just have them feel the crystals. I mean, some people do this even when they're playing with their oracle or their tarot cards to pick the card that they're most drawn to. And then I'll feel like a pull. Something might feel a little bit more hot or warm or cold. as many of you know, intuition works different for different people. Tourmaline, ooh, nice. Nice, Deborah. You know, some people hear things, some people feel things, some people just know things. Okay, so I picked rose quartz, which that makes perfect sense. I've been very, very, very drawn to rose quartz lately. I've been putting rose quartz in my water, in my baths, been sleeping next to it. Ooh, Linda's was amethyst. Hey, Linda, it's nice to see you on here. Love that one. Yeah, so this is my third way of picking crystals to use. So to recap, definitely do your intuition. And then lastly, you know, it's kind of fun, and what my clients will do, whether they're picking a crystal for a crystal healing, or if they come over for a healing bracelet. I don't know if you guys can see. Can you see some of the bracelets? They'll start asking me, what does this bracelet mean? What does this mean? What does this mean? And what I'll have them do is I'll have them first go over and experience the bracelets, feel them, touch them. Then I'll have them tell me what they feel most drawn to. Then what we do is we look them up. And the miracle part of all of it and the funnest part of all of it is when we do look up the meanings, it normally always matches exactly what they need. And then that's where the meanings come into play. So I hope you guys found that useful. If anybody else has a tip on how they pick their crystals, I would love to hear that, to add that to my repertoire. But quick, easy one. You don't need to know the names, guys. All you need to know is your chakra colors. So for example, if your solar plexus is out of balance and you're feeling really insecure and having trouble stepping into your power, then grab a yellow crystal. You know, grab a citrine or a tiger's eye. You know, if you're going through a heartache. Thank you. Love my bracelets. Can't wait to get more from you. Oh, thank you. I'm so glad you love them. I'm looking to see. Miss Sachs. Oh, remind me which one you got on here. All right, guys. So I'm also going to give you a book recommendation. But again, don't do the book till last. Promise me you won't do the... Oh, yeah, the Sodalite's nice. And I just got brand new Sodalite, too, because after you ordered your Sodalite and I posted it, Julie, everybody wanted Sodalite. You started a little Sodalite trend because Sodalite is so good for the third eye and the throat chakra, which this book is so fun. After Will had his accident and we brought him back from the rehab center in LA Children's Hospital. Good. I'm glad you guys are taking screenshots. Because you know what I like about this book, and I'll get back to my story, don't let me forget. This book talks about the crystals with our chakras, which is how I use them. That's how I use them. So when I got back from LA Children's Hospital with William, he was in critical condition, of course, and my dear friend, the doctor of Chinese medicine, would come over to needle Will at the house because I couldn't take him into her office. And she would bring crystals over to use in addition to the needles when he was getting his acupuncture. And this book literally fell off of my bookshelf, and I didn't even remember ordering it or even buying this book. So I started, I did exact opposite of what I'm telling you guys to do. I started first reading about the crystals and what they meant and which ones I needed. And by starting to use crystals in the intellectual way rather than in the feeling way, I realized very quickly that that wasn't the way to start with crystals. So that's why I want to empower you guys and teach you guys, especially with energy healing and energy medicine, because it's all going to mean something different to us, and it's all going to interact with our energy in a different way. So another really cool tip is that since our bodies are somewhere between 80 to 90% water, that's why our energy goes into waves like this, right? So we may be balanced. Let's say we take a yoga class and we feel super aligned and in balance, and then we get home and maybe the dog made a phone call, and we get home and a dog made a horrible mess and we get angry and we feel frustrated, and then we feel completely out of alignment. So we're changing like this. That's why we always need to do things to ground and center and meditate or do balancing with our crystals. But crystals are solid and their energy stays the same. So when we do a crystal healing, oh, thank you, Mom. So when we do a crystal healing, the way it works is that our body's vibration, our body's energy goes to match that of the crystals. So it's raising our vibration to match that of the vibration of the crystal that is always staying the same. This beautiful amethyst here. And another thing I want to say when picking your crystals too, it is a subtle energy, you know, it is subtle. So some people feel it more than others, of course. So give your time to experience them and feel the energy of the crystals. So, all right, guys. Well, that was my scope today. Amethyst, yes, Deborah, amethyst is supposed to be the stone of addiction. It actually comes from the Greek word meaning something that means addiction. I don't have it off the top of my head. But even as far back as the Greeks were using it for addiction. So the sobriety stone, I believe it's called. So amethyst would be good to keep in his energy field. My connection must be bad because I see you guys coming in and out. And remember our quartz-based stones, which I'll talk more about this, but since you asked, Deborah, you can even use amethyst because it's hard enough, even as an elixir, and charge it in the full moon and put it in some water and take the energy in. But, you know, he's got to be in the place to want, you know, the energy to want help as well. So anyway, yeah, so any other questions about how to choose your crystal, or do you guys have any tips on how you choose crystals? While you type that, coming up, I'm going to talk about where to place them in your home and how to make an elixir, all different ways to use your crystals to give you tons of ideas. But basically, you just want them in your energy field, which is why I started making jewelry, so I could have crystals on all the time. All right, guys. Well, if you don't have any questions, we will chat again tomorrow about crystals. And feel free to tweet me too. I think it's the Will to Wild Jewelry if you have any questions or tips or want to know something about crystals. So it'll help me plan for my future scopes. All right. Thanks for joining, guys. And thank you so much for all the hearts and shares. I really appreciate it. Don't know if you got the message, but this was great. Very informative. Oh, yes, I did. And I thank you for it. You must be getting knocked off. Okay, thanks guys. Have a great day.